This is Mixtape running on the Xbox Ally X. Now, after seeing a bunch of trailers for this game, I thought it was going to be an easy one to run on the handheld. I figured performance would be pretty smooth across the board, but surprisingly, the game actually struggles a bit in certain situations. Ultimately though, because of the art style and the way the game moves, it ends up working in its favor. Now, I don't mean the visuals themselves, but the actual movement and animation style. It has that Into the Spider-Verse type of look to it. I'm sure there's a proper artistic term for it, but because of that style, even when the game dips into the 30 FPS range, or even into the mid 20s on lower wattages, it doesn't really feel nearly as noticeable as you would expect. The choppier animation style almost blends naturally with the lower frame rate, so it still feels surprisingly playable. And with that said, let's actually get into the settings that I'm currently using. I tested a bunch of different configurations, and the section you're seeing here is by far the most demanding part of the game that I've come across so far. So the settings I'm using are mainly focused around trying to keep this specific mission playable. In most other sections of the game, performance is actually much better. I'm going to show you the intro of the game right after this, just to show you how much more that actually performs better compared to what you're seeing here. Now currently I am playing the game at 35-watt turbo, and I do have it set to 900p, what you're currently seeing right here, but it absolutely can play at 1080p if you want to, but you are going to lose around 10 FPS in heavier actions. So at 35-watt turbo mode, the game usually bottoms out at around 29 FPS in more demanding areas. For graphics, I'm using a mix of medium and high settings. I also tried dropping everything down to medium, but honestly, the performance difference really wasn't much of that big of a difference. Maybe a 4 to 5 FPS improvement at best before it actually dips right back down. Now, because of that, I'd rather just keep the visuals looking better with the medium and high mix of settings. I actually think there's something happening in the background that's limiting or compensating performance in some way, because of changing the settings don't really scale the way you would expect. So as you see here, we were hitting around 45 FPS, and then I dropped everything down to medium, and we're still hitting around 45 FPS. So changing things really don't seem to do much. I don't know what's going on, but that just seems to be the case here. At 900p on the handheld though, the game still looks great. I really don't have any complaints visually. Most other portions of the game actually run pretty fine at 1080p. So if you wanted to switch back and forwards depending on the level, you definitely can. But for the specific mission itself, 900p just gives more of a stable experience. So to show the difference, like I mentioned before, I did go back to the beginning of the game. So this is the intro here, and I have the same exact settings running. 35-watt turbo mode. I have the mix of medium and high settings at 900p, and the performance sits closer to 50 FPS. There's a pretty massive difference depending on the area you're in. Most of the games so far have hovered around the mid 40s to 50 FPS range, occasionally dipping into the 30s, but it's kind of rare outside of that one mission. And visually, the game is honestly gorgeous. Riding down the hills and slopes in the opening sections looked really good on the handheld. As you see here, this is visually stunning, and we're still hovering around high 40 FPS range, occasionally hitting 50. You really don't see it dip into the 30 FPS range in this opening scene, and it's just as demanding as that other scene with the shopping cart. Overall, this was Mixtape running on the Xbox Ally X. This is definitely an interesting game so far. I'd really like to know what you think about it in the comment section down below. Other than that, if you happen to have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below as well, and I'll help you out the best that I can. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, and if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and hit that like button. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you on the next one.